In the quiet solitude of a veteran's cemetery, where honor and respect should reign supreme, one nurse found herself facing an unexpected challenge. Sarah, a dedicated nurse known for her unwavering compassion, had come to pay tribute to her late grandfather, a war hero laid to rest among his comrades. As she knelt by his grave, the distant rumble of approaching motorcycles grew louder, echoing through the hallowed grounds. Unbeknownst to Sarah, a group of bikers had chosen this solemn moment to rev their engines, their laughter cutting through the sacred silence. Their careless antics seemed a stark contrast to the somber surroundings. Feeling a surge of protective indignation, Sarah stood her ground, her resolve steeled by a mix of grief and disbelief at the lack of reverence shown. Little did the bikers know they had just crossed paths with a nurse whose dedication extended beyond hospital walls. What happens next will reveal whether respect can prevail in the face of unexpected confrontation. Sarah tightened her grip on the small bouquet of flowers in her hand, her eyes locked on the bikers as they circled the cemetery's narrow paths. Their leather jackets bore symbols she didn't recognize, and their loud banter felt like a slap in the face to the solemnity of the place. She wasn't one to seek conflict, but something about their disrespect struck a nerve. This wasn't just any cemetery. It was sacred ground where heroes rested, including her grandfather who had fought for the very freedoms these men seemed to mock. One biker, larger than the rest, finally noticed Sarah's unwavering stare. He slowed his bike, smirking as if daring her to speak. The others followed, engines idling like growling beasts. Sarah's heart pounded, but she didn't flinch. There was more to this group than reckless behavior, and something about their presence felt off. She just didn't know how deep this would go. The biker who had slowed down leaned on his handlebars, his eyes scanning Sarah with a mix of curiosity and arrogance. "What's the matter, nurse? This your turf or something?" He chuckled, loud enough for the others to laugh along. Sarah's jaw tightened. The nurse badge still clipped to her jacket had caught his eye, but he had no idea who he was dealing with. "I'm asking you to show some respect," Sarah said firmly, her voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through her veins. The man's smirk faded slightly, but he didn't back down. Another biker, younger and quieter, shifted uncomfortably. He glanced at Sarah, then at the leader. Something about his unease caught Sarah's attention. Maybe not all of them agreed with what was happening. But before she could say more, the leader revved his engine aggressively. "Respect's earned, lady, and you're in no position to demand it." Sarah's eyes narrowed. This wasn't random disrespect. It felt intentional. But why here? And why now? The leader's engine roared, vibrating through the ground as he inched his bike closer to Sarah. Gravel crunched under the tires, breaking the heavy silence that had fallen over the cemetery. Sarah stood her ground, refusing to step back. Her heart pounded, but she wouldn't let fear control her. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about protecting the dignity of every fallen soldier resting there. The younger biker, still uneasy, glanced nervously at the leader. He tugged at the sleeve of another rider, whispering something, but was quickly silenced with a sharp glare. Sarah noticed the exchange. There was division in the group, cracks in their tough exterior. Suddenly, the leader cut the engine. The silence was even louder now. He swung his leg off the bike and slowly approached Sarah. "You think you know what's going on here?" he sneered, his voice low. Sarah didn't blink. "I know disrespect when I see it." He leaned in closer. "Then maybe you should know. This isn't about you." Before Sarah could respond, the distant sound of another engine echoed through the cemetery. This one different. Deeper, more powerful. The bikers froze. Sarah turned slowly, realizing that whoever was approaching wasn't part of their crew. The leader's smirk faltered for the first time. Something far bigger was unfolding, and Sarah was standing right in the middle of it. The deep rumble of the approaching engine grew louder, cutting through the tension like a knife. Sarah and the bikers turned their heads as a lone rider emerged from the tree line. This wasn't just any biker. His presence was commanding. The man wore a worn leather jacket with military patches, the kind earned, not bought. His face was hardened, marked by years of experience, and his sharp eyes locked directly onto the leader of the group. The leader's bravado wavered. "You've got to be kidding me," he muttered under his breath. Sarah caught the reaction and felt a spark of curiosity. Who was this man, and why did he make the bikers uneasy? The stranger killed his engine and dismounted with calm precision. He didn't say a word, just walked slowly toward them, his boots crunching over gravel. "Didn't think I'd find you here," the man finally spoke, his voice cold and steady. The leader straightened up, trying to recover his swagger. "This doesn't concern you, old man." "Oh, but it does," the stranger replied, revealing a military tag hanging from his neck. "You forgot whose ground you're standing on." Sarah's breath caught. This wasn't just about disrespect anymore. There was history here. The younger biker shifted again, more visibly nervous now. Sarah noticed his glance at the stranger's military patches. But before anyone could speak, the stranger's eyes flicked to Sarah. "They're not here by accident. You need to leave. Now." The leader stiffened, fists clenching. "You think you can stop this?" The stranger's expression didn't change. Then from beyond the cemetery gates, multiple engines echoed in the distance. Not bikers, trucks. Sarah's stomach dropped. This wasn't a random gathering, it was a setup. And whatever was about to happen was far more dangerous than she ever imagined. The roar of approaching trucks grew louder, headlights cutting through the trees and casting long shadows across the cemetery. Sarah's pulse quickened as two blacked-out pickup trucks rumbled to a stop just beyond the gates. The doors swung open, and several men stepped out, silent, calculated, and clearly not here to mourn. The biker leader's confidence snapped back as he exchanged a brief nod with one of the men. "Right on time," he muttered. Sarah's stomach tightened. This wasn't about disrespect or some petty power trip. Something bigger was unfolding, and she was caught in the middle of it. The military stranger didn't move, his stance steady. "I warned you," he said, his eyes never leaving the leader. Before anyone could react, the younger biker suddenly stepped forward, pulling something from his jacket. A small, worn military medal. He held it up shakily. "We didn't sign up for this, Jax. You said this was just a scare." The leader, Jax, snarled, "Shut up, Ryan." But it was too late. The men from the truck stiffened, confused by the outburst. Sarah seized the moment. "You're dishonoring everything that medal stands for," she said, her voice cutting through the tension. The military stranger took a step forward, revealing a concealed badge. "Federal agent. This ends now." Chaos erupted. The truck men reached for weapons, but before they could act, more engines roared to life. From the shadows, a group of veterans on motorcycles stormed in, surrounding the cemetery. They weren't here for show. They were prepared. Jax's face went pale. Outnumbered and cornered, the men froze. The stranger calmly drew his weapon, leveling it at Jax. "You were running stolen weapons through this cemetery." "Not anymore." Jax's defiance crumbled. But as the tension broke, Sarah noticed something. The younger biker, Ryan, slipping away into the woods. In his hand wasn't just the medal, it was a small flash drive. The real story wasn't over. As the authorities arrived to take Jax and his crew into custody, the cemetery slowly returned to its quiet stillness. The veterans who had come to Sarah's aid quietly dispersed, their presence a silent reminder that respect for this sacred ground would always be defended. Sarah watched as the federal agent secured the scene, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. Yet her mind lingered on Ryan disappearing into the woods with that flash drive. What secrets had he been holding onto? Was he running from the gang or protecting something more important? The question remained unanswered, but Sarah knew this fight was over for now. She knelt once more by her grandfather's grave, placing the flowers gently on the stone. "Rest easy," she whispered. As the wind rustled through the trees, Sarah stood tall, knowing that courage wasn't always found on the battlefield. Sometimes it was standing your ground when it mattered most.